Alright, the tank train has arrived. Got these Gatex Athearn linked tank cars. They're awesome. Really like them. There's a couple little things about how they're assembled or something. I don't think that they're refined for assembly all that well, because there's variances in the features based apparently on who put them together. So it's apparently a difficult little build. Those little end section ladders tend to get tilted and bent. There's a little platform on the ends of each car that tend to be bent. Layout's still under construction, yes. Anyway, but they're nice. I mean, the level of detail is pretty amazing on them. There's a lot of details there. But the angle of the hose coming off the end that links each car, little things are just not quite perfect. Maybe perfect isn't the right word, but there's enough variance that it's like, okay, that wasn't put together quite right. That one was, that one wasn't, that one was, that one wasn't. Not the ones you're looking at right now, but just inspecting each one very carefully, where the hoses link. There's a bit of variation to the nozzles and valves and stuff that apparently it's a hard little product to assemble for the factory that makes them. There's the area I'm talking about, that where the hoses link in between the two cars. Little valves on each end can be a little weird. So anyway, it's pretty awesome though. I like them. They fit the prototype because there's a oil field, San Ardo oil field, on the Union Pacific Coastal Subdivision, and it's serviced by tank train cars. So there we go. I got 12 of them. It cost me an arm and a leg to hop around for a bit until I can regrow that. But yeah, they're nice, and I wanted to have at least one set of really appropriate rolling stock for the prototype line. I got some intermodal cars that they do empty well cars running between the Bay Area and LA on the coastal, but I don't think they really run full well cars, and I'm not even sure a double stack well car can go through the tunnels on the Cuesta grade, which this will be eventually, and is going slow because it's kind of hard for a total novice to learn how to lay track that trains don't have decouples at points. And I've gotten past derailments for the most part, but get new cars and they decouple because the little couplers aren't quite at the right height for each other, and I guess I need to start getting into replacing couplers. They're not very expensive, and I guess that's the better way to solve that than trying to just super tweak the track to be perfect so that even misaligned couplers stay together. So yeah, it's going slower than I thought, but I did get some test pieces done. This is foam over wire mesh. Just I used a cardboard box with an angle cut just as a quick test piece. So it's foam sprayed onto wire mesh with sculpted mold and plaster put on top of that, and it does okay at making a lightweight hillside structure. I didn't want to have just a solid block of foam. I wanted there to be some airspace, but I'm not sure that the wire mesh is going to be any lighter than using solid foam, which I've got foam to cut up and use it. Man, that stuff was hard to find and took a long time to ship, but finally got it. So here's another test piece that is purely wire mesh with plaster wrapped around the wire mesh, and it was kind of hard to get the wire mesh to take the plaster without putting it both sides, kind of pushing it through. But once I did, this is really lightweight and actually really strong. Like, I mean, it seems like, wow, this would be a cool way to do it, but it's a little more difficult and time consuming than just slapping it on a surface. Having to reach around through and kind of make these forms, and there might be some refinements to the methodology of doing this. We'll see. I like how light it is. I mean, it is just really, really, really light. So that's something I want out of this, because it's all up on these lightweight shelving, and I can't add a lot of bulk to these T-Track modules, or else it just won't work. They'll start to sag the shelving, and I'll have to buy expensive brackets that cost 3 times as much. These are so cheap; they're like 50 cents each or something. I think I got these online, these angled brackets, but they're not exactly all 90 degrees, and they're kind of weak and wonky. But man, are they cheap to set up. Instant bench work. It worked, and if these modules get heavy, we'll have to do better. But these modules are all supposed to, when the fronts are cut, so this is kind of curving into the track and it's not going to be square. These are going to go up and be the top level of a 3-level layout. It's going to be cluster grade, going along, around the cabinet. The big horseshoe above San Luis Obispo at Turo will be in the corner there. Come around in front of the cabinet. You'll have down here, hopefully in this corner, San Luis Obispo station, and a little bit of a yard, and then it'll go down, helix in there. It'll have a grade through here, a helix, and then come down into what will be the Santa Maria Valley stretch between Oceano and Vandenberg of the UP Coastal, and then also Santa Maria Valley Railroad, which is a cool little short line local that I want to be part of this model, because I was born in Santa Maria, in the hospital there. I never lived there, but that's apparently where I was born. So, and it's right off the UP Coastal, and it just seems like the right thing to do. And it's got a bunch of cool little local industries along it. A little local energy company, small refinery, Pick Sweet, produce, just a bunch of, like a propane delivery place, another random kind of boxcars go there, and I don't know what they do because I can't get any results from Google on what the business is, but they're active because I see boxcars stopping there. And if you go back in the history on Google Earth and look at past aerial photos and satellite photos, you can see if there's traffic at an industry, if they're still using their rail line, and they're using their little spur. So anyway, yeah, started kind of screwing around, playing trains, making little industries over here. That won't stay because this is all going to change. I'm just using that area to build the T-Track modules, and once that set of modules is gone, that goes into a grade here, it'll be cooler. I'm going to build a yard that goes all the way through and then links up, and then this is the yard will just junction into 4 double T-Track module construction zone that will be changed out, so I won't be stuck just with one layout. That's the point of the modular middle section between the helix and the closet, and the helix is out here, and this helix goes down and it's getting near done, and this is going to be Port of Long Beach, and this bookshelf top is going to be Terminal Island, and there will be, I think, kind of underneath the helix is going to be the Chevron refinery in LA, and Terminal Island for intermodal, and that'll give my trains a place to start. But to get up the helix, they have to have a dedicated one pusher, one puller, because I found, like, you don't want to be running expensive train cars up a steep slope where they can decouple and go flying back down the slope and get wrecked, get damaged. But a way to get around that is to have a dedicated set of helpers to get up this grade that take every set of cars that come up from the port with a pusher and a puller. There's going to be a locomotive in front and a locomotive at the rear. They'll be speed matched and consisted through JMRI, so they'll work together without compressing the cars. But the one in the rear is the stopper. It has the brakes, so that if anything decouples, it's not flying down the helix out of control and damaging expensive and hard to get little rail cars, little rolling stock. Because like these These Athearn tank cars, man, I had to wait around for the new run of them, I guess, and they sell out quick, and they're hard to find. They were hard to find, and then I found some. And I made sure I bought a full set because I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get them again. So I got the A, B front, the front and back with their different little nozzles. It's got a different little nozzle on the back there. That might be the front one, I think. I think I have these kind of in reverse, but I guess it doesn't really matter. And then this one here has a little different nozzle as well for loading and unloading this big long line of cars that all, you put oil in or whatever the fluid in one end and it goes through each car to the other end, so you don't have to, in real life, deal with loading and unloading individual tank cars. This saves the railroad industry and the energy sector a lot of time and money, and it's a really cool thing that, you know, you put it in one end and just flows through all of them. Makes a lot of sense. Limits some of the ability of these things to do different jobs. It's all got to be one load from one place. And I think once they start filling these things, they're pretty much stuck without some major cleaning as far as what they're going to actually put into it. They don't want to be mixing different things too much within the same family of like hydrocarbon products even. I'm not sure you really want to be mixing too much because you know, the grade of your product is dependent upon its purity. Anyway, that's the tank train from Athearn arrived, and I'm excited, and it's kind of put all the other rolling stock over onto the spurs, but that's okay. This isn't really how the yard's going to go. The Amtrak is waiting for passengers. Coast Starlight, man, it's sweet. I got the whole thing now. I got two engines, 47 and 161, Amtrak P42s made by Cato. I got the baggage car and the original Amtrak Coast Starliner, or Amtrak whatever it is, set that comes with like 4 cars, and then the A set as well that gives me the dining car and a couple more sleepers. They phased out the Pacific Parlor car, so I guess I don't need that, but I would like to have one. It's pretty much long enough to be a legit Coast Starlight. I don't need to add any more cars. I think I want to hold off on spending any more money on that. I got the transition sleeper and the baggage car extra to go with the 2 4-car sets, and it just seems pretty much good for now. I can't justify needing to spend any more money on that when I got to do a ton of modeling and bring this layout to life. And money should be spent on little things like woodland scenics, dirt, or go get some dirt from the yard or something. You know, the effort needs to be spent on the modeling now. I've got the intermodal with a Cato intermodal well car set and Walters intermodal well car set, both 5-car units. They're pretty cool. I guess the railroads are modifying their well cars back to 40-footers from 58 or whatever the bigger ones were. So more modern and more legit for how railroads are running now would be modified shorter. I think the Cato are the shorter and the Walters are the longer, and Walters has shorter ones out that they just made, I believe, and I think Jay will announce that or something. Anyway, I'm not going to worry about it. And then I've got the Cato mixed freight set, which is kind of out of era, but it works. It's interesting. I think the Santa Maria Valley stuff, it's a lot of agriculture, and so I think the sugar and the grain hoppers, I need grain hoppers. I just do. That's what I see a lot in the Santa Maria Valley Railroad, is grain hoppers for all the agricultural industry. I do need a set of those. I don't know what I'm going to do about it because I don't really have money to spend on rolling stock anymore, and I kind of bought stuff that maybe I shouldn't have. Some out-of-era box cars from Bachman that I'm not super happy with, but whatever, I'll live with them. The Cato mixed freight set was so cheap that I'm not bummed on it. These cars were like $8, $10 each, so I mean, whatever. They're nice looking and they roll over through any corner with the nice rolling trucks and wheels, and they work for me. Micro Trains SW15, not super happy. Runs seemingly really rough. The instructions for installing the decoder are crap. I mean, they're just absolute crap. They tell you to do things like remove the weight from the cab, and then when you're done, it's like, why did I remove the weight from the cab? Okay, now put the weight back in the cab. There's like literally, they tell you to separate parts from each other, that there's absolutely no reason to do so whatsoever to install the decoder, which goes in a completely different area. So it's like they had someone write instructions that never actually did it, that never actually installed the decoder, which is kind of lame. And just the whole thing, it just wasn't super impressed. I lost the little bell that goes in front of the two stacks, like immediately. I had to glue the stacks in. Now that's glued in, it press fits in really very badly with big gaps, and you have to sand and whittle away and modify things to get them to fit flush, and then advice, glue the crap together or you will lose it because they're tiny. There's some other little tiny parts that I'm considering gluing on there as well. Now that I've realized that I don't need to have them, like I can deal with separating the shell without hurting those parts with them being glued together, and they need to be glued on to even stick around, or else they're just going to be lost. There's a little feature on the front railing. Oh, thank you, camera, for being just super lame. Panasonic camera, not impressed either. A lot of the details look really nice on this Microtrans SW1500. I do love a lot of the details, they look great, but there's some things about it that are like, what the heck and why? It should say like, hey, immediately glue these parts in or you'll lose them. Bummed I lost that little bell. I hope I can order another one, but it comes on the sprue tree for the thing. I'll probably have to order the whole sprue tree. If I can do that even, that'd be cool. Oh, this camera's killing me with its freaking messed up focus. So anyway, there's a tour of the layout and the new tank train cars, and I mean the layout is rough. It's just so work in progress, learning how to lay down plaster on the wire, or possibly switching over to just solid foam landscape. Like the idea of doing the armature kind of foam more, but it was very time consuming to make it. But I also know that the next one would go like twice as fast, and then probably learn more and go even faster. So I'm going to complete this module using the air gapped kind of frame, and then I might do this module with solid blue foam slabs and then just carve that, because I know that that's going to be a lot easier to get the actual terrain features of the Questa grade, just carving that blue foam versus having to plot out where all the curvature is for the wire in the framework, and then apply the wire to it, and then apply the plaster to it, and hope that I got the right landscape and being somewhat stuck with it without adding a lot of material in the plaster that I don't really want to do. We'll see. Anyway, video's getting long. Happy modeling, everybody. Here goes the tank train again. There's the camera just being super uncool. God, I don't know, man. I might even be sending this back to Amazon, to Panasonic, and getting a different camera, more expensive, better function. This thing, its autofocus is just crap. It picks up anything but what you're looking at, as with most cameras. Anyway, have a great afternoon. Happy modeling all.